Hi, I'm Guhan. I'm the product marketer at Argonaut. And today I have Nischal with me, who's the designer here. And we're going to go over some of the design processes at Argonaut and some decisions and how things happen.
Hey Gohan. So it usually starts off with a feature requirement, and then Surya and Surya is our CEO, we sit together on a call, and Surya gives me more context on why we need this feature, what the requirements are, how it needs to behave, and all that. And after that, I do a lot of market research and competitive research on existing solutions. I look at a lot of things, I check out what they're doing well and how we can adopt that into our own practices. I take note of what we can improve on top of all that and things like that. And then I move on to low fidelity wireframes design. We do a lot of iteration on the lo-fi wireframes to fix on which flows are working out and which aren't. After that, I move on to high fidelity wireframes and prototypes. At this point of the design process, I bring in developers and get their feedback on a lot of things. We go back and forth a lot, iterate a lot on this until we land in a place where everyone is happy and that gets shipped off for development.
Wonderful. And what is this feature you have part of today? Do you want to walk us through something? The process of designing or
Yeah, you're looking at the pipelines feature that we're currently working on. Previously, we used to trigger a build every time a deployment was changed. Let's say a simple variable is changed for a deployment, and we used to trigger the build for that. That used to lead to a lot of wasted resources and time. We've improved on that by removing the dependency of build and deployment and triggering them independently, so you don't have to trigger a build every time you change deployment configuration. And as you can see here, you can also chain multiple deployments after a build. So let's say after a build is completed, you need to deploy it to a dev and a staging environment simultaneously. You can do that.
awesome. I think it also does a sort of cost savings for the end user as well. So going back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
your previous point about how you work with developers, so once you have these designs, what kind of feedback do you get from developers when they start to implement it, and how do you take the feedback, and what does the process look like?
So developer feedback is very important because while designing, I might miss a couple of use cases, and from their implementation point of view, they have a better bird's eye view of their entire feature end to end, and they usually point out very useful things when it comes to edge cases and handling them, how to handle them, how to show them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And also like you have so many screens that you just showed in your Figma page, and what is the one thing that you try to keep consistent across all the screens, and how do you how successful do you think the implementation of that is being?
So we used to follow a card system previously. That used to be our design system, which was using borders and shadows to keep sections separated. We moved to a new design system without cards, with just headers. So I've been trying to keep that consistent a lot because along with our headers, there's also an action button to the right of the header. We establish a pattern which is easy for the user to remember and replicate. So I've been trying to keep that consistent across our UI.
Okay, thank you so much. Um, the last question for you is, you also happen to be a sales engineer, right? So how did you start venture into this UX UI field and become a designer at Argonaut?
So art and design has always been a part of my life since I was a kid. I even did a fine arts degree when I was in eighth grade. I graduated with a CS degree from my college, and our curriculum was designed in such a way that it had a lot of focus on project-oriented courses, in which we had to build apps and stuff using various tech stacks. Even in those projects, I used to do the initial DB setup, creating schemas, and then I moved on to the front-end styling. There was also a phase in the project where we had to do market research and show prototypes and design wireframes and stuff. uh, I grew particularly fond of that phase, and I found out that I was getting better at research and design than building the product. After that, I did a couple of design internships and freelance design work surrounding logos and banners and menu and stuff like that. And then I interned as a UI UX designer for a startup, and now I'm here at Argonaut.
Great.